we've been using these virtual terminals now for, we've had some of them that we've used for as long as 8 years in our presentation virtualization scenarios. So yeah, I mean, when we replace the thing, it's primarily just because we got to get rid of it. You know, it's broke, and so we throw it out. Or when we're installing maybe a new wireless client or something like that, and we'll pull the old client out, toss it away, and put a new one in. So. We also tend to see a more consistent performance and reliability since the machines are all diskless with the gold image stream to them. They always start up in an optimal state, so you eliminate all your registry clutter and file clutter that essentially would have a tendency to slow a system down over time. You also get eliminating the degradation associated with the DLL dependencies because you're not loading any new DLLs. Okay, when you run into virtualized apps, the DLLs associated with the virtualized apps stay within the virtualization sandbox. They don't go into the operating system. As far as grain, I mean, this is a big deal to some of the folks. Is you know, are we really going to do anything with respect to reducing our energy costs? Fewer desktops reduce our power requirements. The thin clients are much more energy efficient than the desktops. We figure they consume about 90% less energy than a regular desktop. In our studies we've done, we get to the best energy efficiency out of 2 ESX servers when we get to about 200 users per server, or 100 users on each server. That improves gradually, and we hit a plateau at about 1,000 users, at which point in time we figure we're saving about 73% of the energy that we would normally be spending if we were doing fat client desktops. Over 4 years, that turns out to be about 23% savings. If you throw in the air conditioning costs in the data center, it actually moves up to 43%. So, all right, pardon? Okay. So we started this out in 2006. We did an analysis of our existing setup and decided whether or not we could try to use the Citrix desktop environment to replace the various user groups. We looked primarily at task workers and knowledge workers. We also looked at high-end graphics users, but because of the requirements for multimedia and audio, 3D types things, we basically said we can't deal with the high-end graphics user at this point. Citrix turned out to be the best solution at that point in time, but neither the Citrix or any of the other server-based computing solutions we looked at would deal with all of our multimedia requirements, nor would they deal with the collaboration tool we were looking at the time. So even given those types of things, we decided we'd go ahead and evaluate Citrix as a potential solution. During that same time, a small company called Provision Networks, which now belongs to Quest, started pushing forward the idea of going to a virtual machine-based virtualization solution. And we looked at that, and at the time it looked like a good idea, but it wasn't where we wanted to be. In 2007, the first generation of products came out from VMware, Citrix Desktop Server version 1, and VMware released their first version of View. They just weren't any good. They didn't work. Even Citrix said, "This is not, here's a product, but it's not going to be what you're looking for." So we kept at it. 2008, we got the second generation of topics of products. Citrix Zen Desktop 2 came out. We looked at it. It wasn't actually, quite frankly, didn't do much better than what we could do with Provision Network stuff, but it was a major improvement. It was also the point in time when we could actually run everything from a single image, which was very important for what we were trying to do. In the fall of 2008, the Citrix Zen Desktop 2.1, we implemented that. That's where we learned that the Citrix Zen Server hypervisor had some stability issues and some limitations, and we decided we would just go ahead and go with ESX at the time. We were also at this point working very closely with Wise in the development of their TCX protocol, which was going to be necessary to do multimedia redirection and USB redirection. So, in 2009, we felt comfortable enough to turn this thing loose on the general population, so we established a pilot using a hybrid approach that consisted of using the VMware ESX hypervisor, Citrix Zen Desktop 3, Citrix Provision Server to stream the OS, VMware ThinApp to do the application virtualization. We're using a Wise V10L device as the thin client, and then Wise's TCX from protocol for USB and a multimedia redirection. So, from a hypervisor perspective, we're again running V3 version 3.5 on a DL585 G5 as a four quad-core processors, 128 gig of RAM. Basically, the biggest box we can get our hands on to run as a hypervisor. To deal with all the desktop management for OS streaming, Citrix Zen Desktop version 3 running on a DL385 G5 to deal with that particular piece of the solution. To deal with the desktop delivery controller, which was the piece that managed the assignment and power management for the virtual machines. It was also what was responsible for booting the virtual machines and getting them built and shutting them down when the users logged out.
And what levels did you run into problems?
All levels. I'm serious. Again, this is a 3-year. This was it 2009. This is 4 years. This is a 3 or 4 year adventure to get through this stuff. Every time.
Problems with hardware? Did you run problems with the specific pieces of software?
No, it's always software integration. It was always a software integration effort. Trying to take the bits and pieces of software, put them together. One of the things we found in this particular environment, because it was so complex, the vendors don't know what their stuff does.
What?
Serious. The vendors do not know what their hardware, what their software does.
Explain.
Well, it just various cases of we would bring their tech services people in, have a scenario set up, and the guy would say, okay, it'll do this, and this, and it didn't. It did this, and this. Okay, so it was a constant wrangling with the vendors over what their products would do and what they didn't do. A lot of discovery on our part. Again, you couldn't believe the documentation you were reading. It would.
The integration between the two different companies, like between Zen and that caused you those issues, or was it inside the one guy's product?
Both.
Oh,
it was all over. Yeah, we were basically doing a lot of work all over the place. It was no one particular thing. The one area that we did have a lot of success in, though, was with the protocols. ICA is fairly well established. It's been out there for a long time, good for doing KVM kinds of things, except streaming video. Okay, you can't stream video from a virtual machine, take some flash running in that virtual machine, and then stream it over ICA into the thin client. That's where Wise stepped up with TCX, which allowed us to do multimedia redirection. So instead of the video being streamed across the Wise protocol or across the ICA protocol, the Wise little piece of code running on the box grabbed the video and piped it over to the client using a different protocol and actually rendered the video on the thin client as opposed to trying to render it in the virtual machine.
So what do you care? I mean, you're a business. You don't care if they're watching Flash. I mean, why should
Yeah, we do, because we do a lot of training stuff. All of our training stuff is Flash based. Okay. Yeah. So and again, on our shop floor, keep in mind we eliminated all of the paper and stuff on the shop floor. The guys don't have any manuals out there on the shop floor. Okay. So when a guy gets ready to go do a job, if he hasn't done that job in 3 or 4 days or 3 or 4 weeks, and he wants to brush up real quick before he goes in it, because I mean we're talking about guys that are handling carbon-based or carbon fiber-based composite things, and if you drill a hole in the wrong spot, you're not going to patch it. Okay, you throw the thing out and you start over. Okay? So the guy wants to be sure he's going to do the right job. He's going to go in and pull up a video-based training simulator, video-based training, watch it, and then go over and get the job done. So, yeah.
You said this was for mostly your knowledge worker computers,
right?
What percentage of that of your total installation was that?
Across all of our sites, knowledge workers probably would be somewhere in the neighborhood of about 10,000 people.
Okay.
We at the facility we we have a greater than one machine to one person ratio in our environment. across our environment, you're looking at roughly 14, 15,000 people. So the knowledge task workers combined would be in somewhere in the neighborhood of about 10,000 people. Okay, the rest of it's factory, out in the factory. So, yeah. Yeah.
I was just going to ask, before you move away from this, you said the WISE allows redirection of protocols like Flash over to the thin client.
Right.
As it also that data actually can. So then how fat is the thin client actually getting if it's also doing all this multimedia processing?
What they should do next, do you have
Well, yeah, it's. Let's see. Thin app, thin client. Okay, the thin client's a V10L. It has. I'm trying to think. The footprint for the V10L, I believe, and the ThinOS operating system that runs on it is only about. I think it's like 120 meg. And again, that's burned into the firmware on the box, and then we can flash update that as we need to. So. All right, so back to the application virtualization we picked VMware ThinApp because it could do some things that that you can't do in using the Microsoft application virtualization tools. For instance, ThinApp right now is the only one that you can actually run an application that requires admin privileges, but run it in user mode inside the virtualized box. You're not required to have admin privileges to run a ThinApp wrapped application, even if the application requires admin privileges. Let's see. All right, storage. Again, there is a significant storage requirement for this thing because you are storing your not so much for your virtual machines, but again for your any application that you virtualize, as well as your each of the thin clients, each of your users' application profiles. So this is kind of an eye chart. It's probably a cruel thing to do, especially after last night. So essentially, you got three things going on here. Over in the green box, essentially, it goes through the process whereby the client comes in, boots up the WISE, the user comes in, boots up the WISE terminal. It comes up to a login prompt for the terminal itself. User logs in with their AD credentials. They're validated. Let's see if I can go up here. Where's my cursor? It's not going up there. They would be validated against the Active Directory. Once they're validated against the Active Directory, then they connect to the Citrix Desktop Delivery Controller, which then connects up to the validates all the licensing on any of the applications that they're authorized to use. Ultimately, connects back to the ESX host and requests a virtual machine. Once it's requested a virtual machine, you jump over into the yellow box where the VM then Pixie boots over to pulls up his boot image. The boot image is streamed to the box. As soon as there's enough of the image streamed to the box for it to actually start displaying back to the user, it starts to display back to the user. At that point in time, you jump down to the white box where the profile manager steps in and delivers all of the user-specific profile pieces. So you have
How long?
30 seconds.
Nice.
Yeah, it's just it's faster than the laptop boots. And of course, now, saying that for our company laptops is not saying anything because it takes 8 to 10 minutes for one of our company laptops to boot because of all the crap that's on it. But this will boot. Yeah, this boots up in about.
How much optimization did you have to do to get it back to that point?
A lot. Yeah, there was a lot of tuning of the servers, a lot of tuning of the software parameters. But again, it's pretty consistent. You can consistently, punch the button on the box and boot and reboot. And
How, considering that you've put a lot of work into building this pretty cool infrastructure, but if you hadn't, you would have the standard local machines and people ripping their hair out in frustration.
right.
Do you think that the trade-off of manpower and womanpower, forgive me, is better the way you've done it, or worse, or do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. This infrastructure, again, the pilot was we piloted 60 people. We actually were forced into putting it into a production mode